Okay, page 72. The number 72, by the way, is a special number in Gematria. You know what Gematria is? It's the numerical value of Hebrew letters. So 72 is equal to Chesed, which means kindness. Chet is 8, Samach is 60, Dalet is 4, which is equal to 4 times 18. Right, so like it's representing the 4 letters of the divine name and the life energy that's coming through the 4 letters of the divine name, and that's Hashem's Chesed. Okay. Lo lishpot, page 72. Lo lishpot shum adam b'yamim ha'ele, not to judge anyone in these days, in the days of Ra. And right, so we call the 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur as the 10 days of Ra. Yamim Noraim in Hebrew, and the idea being that these are the days of judgment, right? Not that long ago, but before your time, it was like a big thing that we would send Rosh Hashanah cards. You probably remember that. It was like a big thing in every family. You'd buy these Rosh Hashanah cards, and you'd sit there and you'd write addresses and keep tabs of who, to make sure you didn't forget anybody. And if anybody sends you a card, you have to make sure that you send it to them. There's something that they call snail mail, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
just call it mail.
And then, so one of the most common, like, these were printed artsy type of cards. Like, you probably can look up Rosh Hashanah cards on YouTube images.
A lot of work for graphic artists.
And yeah, you should make an electronic Rosh Hashanah cards. That should be good. Yeah, why don't you? Maybe. Anyway, so. So the most common image that you would see on the Rosh Hashanah cards would be, besides a shofar, you would have scales. Also apple and honey. No, that's another one. Yeah, apples and honey, but also a scale for judgment. Like the days of Ra, the days, the 3 books that are open: the book of life, the book of the opposite, and the book of the intermediaries. So these are days of judgment, right? And so we're being judged, right? We're being judged, and basically, it says in Chassidut, it's not just that we're being judged; we're also Rosh Hashanah. The essence of the blowing of the shofar is. Well, I gotta watch out how I talk. When you say the essence, I don't mean to say the only essence, right? But one of the essential things about the blowing of the shofar is that it's our way of coronating Hashem as our king. as declaring that yes, Hashem, you are my king. And we've spoken about the whole concept of kingship and malchut, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about it because unfortunately there's a long history of some bad kings, even even without the Boston Tea Party, there's still it's so like I know that not whenever, but often when I speak in America and the United States, I see that there are people in the crowd always that when you speak about Hashem as the king, that they sort of get a little bit nervous. Even when saying Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, God is the king of the universe. So one of the things that one should understand about the whole concept of Malchut, of kingship, as explained in Chassidut, is Malchut is the lowest of the 10 Sfirot, the 10 divine attributes. Is it too noisy? We can shut that window. No. So it's the lowest of the 10 attributes, and Malchut basically, there's a statement that says, Ein melech belo am. There's no king without a people. Now the word am is related to the word omemut, which basically means dim. In other words, Hashem, you wouldn't say that one is let's say a king has a bunch of children. You wouldn't say that he's king over his children, right? Even if he has a bunch of close ministers and so on, you wouldn't say he's king over them. Who is a king ruling over? A king is ruling over those who are distant from him. And what that means to say is that Hashem dims his lights, so to speak. Okay, we're talking human language to talk about God. So always keep in mind that we're limited in whatever we could say, and whatever we do say, you have to understand it's just more like a parable of some kind, and the analogs are not always accurate. But basically, consider it like this: if everybody knows that you cannot look directly into the sun. You look into the sun too long and we go blind. In other words, too much light we're not capable of handling too much light. Similarly, spiritually, if God would, so to speak, turn up his lights and make his lights really visible to us, then would you still have free choice? You wouldn't have free choice. Just like how much free choice do you have about breathing, right? You have to breathe. If it's clear to you that your life is totally dependent on Hashem at each and every instant, which it, by the way, is, you wouldn't have any free choice. You just wouldn't be. You would be pretty much like an angel. You would be almost like who are pretty much robotic. And angels don't have free choice. So when you say, "Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, Melech HaOlam, King of the universe," and I wish there would be a better word, but it basically says, I recognize you, that it's you who is giving me the opportunity to be me. You are giving me the opportunity to be me. Okay? You are giving me...
Dim?
Omamut. No, Omamut, Am. From the word Am. Ayin, Vav, Mem, Vav, Tav. So you have given me the free choice to recognize you or to, God forbid, not recognize you, right? You've given me the free, you've put me in this world of, which the Zohar calls Alma the Shikra, this world of lies, this world in which I can deny that there's a creator, for whatever reason one might want to do that, but the possibility exists. The possibility exists for man to to turn towards Hashem or to turn his back to God, right? So that's all part of the aspect of Malchut, of the kingship, right? That is the kingship is that attribute of kingship in which Hashem dims his lights. In other words, he conceals himself, so that we can have free choice to coronate him, as we try to do on Rosh Hashanah. So what's the whole point of the coronation? The whole point of the coronation is that basically that we are accepting that you are our king, that you are our God, and we're accepting to subject ourselves to your will, to make ourselves subservient to your will. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to convince Hashem, we're trying to convince God that he should consider it worthwhile to continue with the creation. Right? The whole point, the way the Zohar puts it, the whole point of the creation of the world is that God wanted to have a dwelling place in the lowest of all worlds. This is the lowest of all worlds. And it's our job to turn this world into a dwelling place for Hashem. And how do we do that? By manifesting and by living according to and manifesting his will in this world, right? By making it clear, living our lives in such a way that makes it clear that there is a God. Just last night, after we made Havdalah, I don't remember his name actually right now, but I was introduced to a man outside. He lives not far from here. I was told that he's a world famous author and who spent a lot of his life in Italy. And he actually goes to Montreal a couple of times a year to give. He's going to be giving a lecture at the Israel Museum pretty soon as well. So he said that you've heard of Pascal, the mathematician, and you've heard of him?
Pascal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like a mentor to Louis XIV, to Louis XIV. And the anecdote that he related to me was that Louis XIV said to Pascal, like, he saw him praying one day. He says, "What are you doing praying? You're a scientist, and science, science is replacing religion and so on and so on." And he says, "No, I'm a scientist, but I believe that there's God." And so he says, "What are you talking about? What God? What God?" So he says, "Well, there's miracles every day." So he said to him, so Louis XIV said to him, "Well, show me one miracle." So he says, "Well, the existence of the Jewish people. The fact that the Jewish people still exist, despite the fact that every civilization is trying to wipe us out, and the fact that we're here, that is evidence of the reality and of God." And I've heard this, said in other contexts as well. Like one of the theories behind anti-Semitism is that the world doesn't want to hear about God, so kill the witness. And then this other fellow who was standing with us last night, Avi, said his theory about why Hitler, felt that he had to wipe out the Jews is because since he believed in such a thing as the superior race, and he claimed that the Aryans were the superior race, so he had to prove that by wiping out the nation that everybody else is considered to be the most advanced. So it's like what do you call it? It's like like in sports or how do you become the top by beating somebody else who's been the top? So if since he had this concept of a superior race, he had to But that was Avi's theory. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not right now. But in any case, the our role, as spelled out in the Torah, in chapter 19 in Exodus, before we're given the Torah. So Hashem sends Moshe Rabbeinu down with the message of Tem tihiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You shall be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. That's our role, and that's, by the way, the world knows this, and that's why the world has a double standard vis-a-vis the Jewish people, because they know that we're supposed to be doing something special, and if you don't want to listen to someone that's supposed to be guiding you, well, one way to manage not to listen to them is to find flaws with them. And that's why the world is always watching to see what are the Jewish people doing. And I mean, it's just almost absurd, because consider like what's going on not that many kilometers away from here in Syria, right? Did you see the headlines today? Like, like apparently the Americans or Australian planes bombed some Syrian military posts by mistake, and they killed over 60 people. So they apologized, right? We scratch a Palestinian who's throwing rocks, and the world is like, like, what are you doing, right? And there's something like over 200 foreign journalists here in Israel, and there's maybe 5 in Syria. But like everybody's always watching the Jewish people. And there's a positive reason for it too. The fact that they're doing it in a negative way doesn't mean that there isn't a positive reason. Because what does it mean? You shall be a kingdom of Kohanim. Now the word Kohen is a noun. The verb lechahen means to serve. Okay. The pedestal upon which, or the thing that the Kohanim stand on when they're giving the priestly blessing is called duchan. In the shuk, those tables that the vendors have their goods on that they're selling, what is it called in Hebrew? It's called a duchan. It's, in other words, it's like the table by which you're serving somebody, right? So Vatem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim, you shall be for me a kingdom of kohanim, means you will be those who will interface between me and the rest of the world. In other words, the Jewish people's job is to be a holy nation and to pretty much help everybody else relate with God, to make God known to the world and to help everybody else. And that's the vision of that in Messianic times, like the Yeshayahu says, "When I love Kol HaGoyim, all the nations will be streaming like rivers towards Yerushalayim, and Ki Beiti Beit Tfilah Yikarei L'Chol Ha'amim, because my house will be a house of prayer for all the nations." Right. So, in a very deep way, all these nations actually want that. It's when we, God forbid, unfortunately, pretend and say, no, we're like everybody else. That's when the rest of the world says, you're not. And they'll make sure that they'll remind us that we're not. So once Rav Davidin Shalom gave a very sort of humorous parable about the Jewish people, and he speaks about this governor down in one of the southern states, and the governor is having a fish fry on a Sunday afternoon, and he's inviting all the citizens that in his territory to this fish fry. I never would have started that myself. I guess I'm not from the south, but and the waiter's job is to make sure that everybody gets served, and everyone gets introduced to the governor, and then after all that, we have to also clean up. And he says, "We're the waiters. This is our job." we have to make sure that everybody gets served with a menu of mitzvot and spirituality, so that they know that they can get to know that there's a creator. And we have to introduce them to Hashem, and then we also have to clean up the mess that comes about when we didn't do it, if we didn't do it as well as we should have. Okay, so that's the so every Rosh Hashanah we're coming to God and we're saying, Hashem, yes, I'm coronating you, as strange as it sounds that a human being is coronating God, but that's the role that we've been given. And yes, Hashem, I believe that the world should continue its existence, and I'm committing myself to trying to do whatever I need to do to keep you convinced that it's worthwhile for the world to continue being in existence. And that's the relationship with the idea of Malchut. But Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment, right? In other words, we're being judged. So here on page 72, the little title we have over here is Lo lishpot shum adam b'yamim ha'ele, don't judge anyone else. So Rav Shlomo says, Rabotenu HaKadoshim Amurim, our holy rabbis teach us, or say, Sha'aderech hachi tova lischot l'shana tova hi, the best way to merit a good year is that b'Rosh Hashanah, or b'Yom Kippur, or b'Meshech Kol HaChodesh, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and throughout the entire month, Lo lishpot af echad, don't judge anyone else. Lo lomar shum davar ra al adam acher, don't say anything bad about another person, right? Nilel Rosh Hashanah b'chol aseret yemei tshuva, starting from Rosh Hashanah night and throughout the entire 10 days of tshuva. Ana bevakasha, please, I'm begging you, al tidavru shum davar ra al adam acher, don't say anything negative about another person, right? Haim Abba ohev shomrim mashu lo tov al yiladim shelo? Do you think a father likes to hear somebody say something negative about his children? Gam HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo ohev shemikatchigim al am Yisrael. God also doesn't like to hear anything of a prosecution, any kind of prosecution against the Jewish people. So that's one aspect to it. In other words, you don't want to be judged. Don't judge others, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? If you're being judgmental on others, you're basically inviting judgment on yourself as well, right? You're basically saying, yeah, this is the way it should be. People should be like, somebody did something that's not 100% kosher, I'm going to judge them. Well, then I'm inviting this. In other words, if it's good enough, if it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough for the gander. That's an old saying or something like that, right? It's good. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect. So if you don't want to be judged, don't judge anyone. And what does it mean to judge anyone? Even just saying something negative about someone is a judgment, right? Whether it's on the level of being testimony or decision making, it's a judgment. Now, there's a lot. There are many consequences when you behave that way. Now, everybody knows that Lashon Hara, right, slander, is considered to be one of the worst transgressions that one can do. There are three transgressions which are exceptions in the sense that, in general, whenever it's a question of saving a life versus following a mitzvah, saving the life takes priority. So, for example, there are people that will not be allowed to fast on Yom Kippur because fasting would endanger their health. Right? So if the doctor tells somebody you may not fast, they're not allowed to fast. Okay? If somebody passes out in shul from fasting, you have to feed them and save their lives. Like pikuach nefesh, saving their life, pushes Shabbos aside, pushes Yom Kippur aside, pushes just about everything aside except for three commandments, and that is, if somebody says, you kill this person or I'm going to kill you, you have to give your life. If somebody says, worship this idol or else die, you have to give your life. Somebody says, transgress on the laws of sexuality or die, have to be ready to die. Okay. Now, the Talmud says that slander, Lashon Hara, is worse than all three together. It's worse than all three of those together, which is, just to point out to you how far that is from our thinking. Imagine you're sitting in shul and in comes somebody who just committed a murder, right? And you have a choice to sit next to this person or to sit next to someone who speaks Lashon Hara. Right? The likelihood is that you're going to change seats and go sit next to the person who speaks Lashon Hara, right? Because we've become so insensitive to the evil of slander. Okay. But Shlomo once explained that what's so bad with Lashon Hara, by definition, when you speak Lashon Hara, by definition, you're telling the truth. If it's not the truth, it's not even called Lashon Hara. It's a different category of transgression. So if I'm telling you the truth about somebody, look, he did this and this, and you should have seen the way, like I was at his house and I saw the way he speaks to his children is absolutely disgusting. And I'm telling you the truth, right? Or somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, you know this guy, and I'm supposed to be going on a date with him, and you know that the guy's a real jerk, right?" Or you're considering going into a business with somebody who's going to be your partner, and I know that there's certain things that you better watch out about. Okay. Now, there are situations in which I actually do have to tell you, to forewarn you. I can't say, for example, if you're going into business with somebody that has a record for being a cheater on his partners, I can't say, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to speak Lashon Hara. But there are ways to do it. But in the other example that I was giving, I'm in somebody's house and I see somebody not being respectful to his family, and I come and I tell you this, or I tell you that negative things about other people. So by definition, they're true. So why is it wrong for me to tell you that? So Shlomo explained that according to the tree of knowledge, speaking Lashon Hara makes sense. It's knowledge of good and evil. But according to the tree of life, it's totally wrong. Because yes, it's what he did is true. This is what so-and-so did. But if I speak Lashon Hara about him, I'm saying he did this and he's forever going to be that way. I'm not recognizing the possibility of change. I'm not recognizing the possibility of tshuva on this person's part. Okay? I'm not letting him connect with the tree of life. I'm saying he's stuck over there. He was like this, he's going to be like this forever. I remember when I first started teaching in school in Montreal, in high school. So it was a rather small school, and it was the same literature teacher for grade 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And I noticed over the years that a kid who got an 80 in grade 7 also got an 80 in grade 8, also got an 80 in grade 9 with his teacher, and also got the same thing in grade 10 and 11. And like, in other words, she already pegged them in grade 7, you know what I mean? Like maybe there were one or two that she managed to get them to do better, but generally speaking, and that's a serious problem in education, especially when teachers come into the teacher's room and they say, at the end of the year, like, the grade 4 teacher tells the grade 5 teacher, this particular kid is, watch out, he's like, he's really bad, and this and that, and so on. And the grade next year comes in, and it's already expected that this kid is going to continue in the same pattern of behavior, right? So Lashon Hara is a really terrible thing, okay? Now, so don't judge anyone because during these 10 days, because you're being judged yourself. You're going to be judgmental, so then you're inviting that the heavenly court should be judgmental with you too. But he goes on and he says, "Aval yesh inyan nosaf," there's an additional aspect too, and that is, "K'shata medaber al hasheni," when you're talking lashon hara against another person, "Olai ata be'etzem medaber al atzmacha," maybe you're talking about yourself, right? Ki tzarich ladat, because you need to know the following: Gzar din b'shamayim, whenever the heavenly court decrees something, mechakeh leishur kan ba'aretz, it waits for an affirmation here on earth. Ta'aru la'atzmechem l'mashal, imagine, for example, shemishu ganav, let's say somebody stole, Hashem yishmor, God should protect everyone. Lifnei shegozrim et gedino b'shamayim, now in the human courts, okay, let's say somebody's been charged with theft, and the judges analyze the case and listen to all the testimony, and they come to the conclusion that, yes, Reuven, you are guilty of theft. Okay. Now, Reuven, the defendant, has to affirm the judgment. In other words, it's necessary for him to affirm the judgment and to say, I accept your judgment. Okay. And there's a lot of reasons why that's important. So now when the heavenly court is judging someone, the heavenly court needs the person who's being judged to affirm the judgment as well. So how does the heavenly court do it? So he says, so before the decree is declared in heaven, before his judgment is declared in heaven, things are arranged here in this world. That someone should ask the thief who's being judged in the heavenly court, tell me, what do you think should be done with so-and-so who stole? And if he answers, hu ganav, he stole, nora, that's terrible, you better throw him into prison. What is done then is, he's basically issued his decree against himself. You understand? In other words, why, this is a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. Why we believe in divine providence. We believe that things, like for example, the four of us are sitting here now, this is also by divine providence, okay? So what we're learning is also by divine providence. So if I'm walking in the street and I see somebody doing something negative, why was it arranged that I should be there and see that? Why, like, what, does God have nothing else to do but to arrange that I, Shalom, should be walking down the street at this particular moment and see that event happening? And if I believe in divine providence, it means I believe that it was arranged that I should see it. Well, there's a number of possible reasons for it. One of the possibilities is that Hashem is saying, Shalom, do something to make this situation better. Okay. Another possibility is you are now seeing something that you yourself are guilty of, and do something to make it better, and be very careful that you don't be judgmental. Because if you're going to be judgmental, you're actually passing judgment against yourself. Okay? So that's what he says over here. Let me just finish the, so, okay, let's just see a couple of lines on the top of 73. And therefore, dalacha, know that l'tovatcha, for your own benefit, tizaher, be careful. Kishata medaber al azulat, when you're talking about another person, be careful, because you might actually be declaring yourself as being guilty, as guilty. Therefore, al ta'ashim ish, don't accuse anyone, al tishpat, don't judge. And it's one of our favorite games, right? To be the prosecutor, witness, and judge. And we're doing it all the time. Judging how you're dressed, I'm judging how you look, I'm judging what you said, I'm judging whether you laughed at my joke or whether you didn't laugh at my joke, etc., etc. We're constantly, so the ability to discern and to make judgments is a very, very holy ability, right? Judges in the Torah are also referred to by the name Elohim. It's a very divine thing to judge. But if you're using your abilities to judge incorrectly, or in other words, you're accepting testimony that you're not allowed to accept, right? Whether you're hearing it from somebody else or whether you yourself are the one that's fabricating, the false testimony, doesn't matter. Bad judgment, wrong judgment destroys the world, right? The last Mishnah in Pirkei Avot in chapter 1, the last Mishnah in chapter 1 says, Ashlosha dvarim ha'olam kayam, the existence of the world, the continued existence of the world is dependent on three things. Al ha'emet, v'al hadin, v'al ha'shalom, is dependent on truth and judgment and peace. And if there's no emet, then there's no truth, there's no true judgment, and if there's no true judgment, there's no peace. True judgment is like when we pray every day in the Amidah, Hashiva Shifteinu Kevarishona, return our judges as our real judges as we had in the past. The real judge is one who has the ability to judge you in such a way that you feel, instead of feeling destroyed, you feel restored, and you feel fresh, and you feel that I can now go on with life, and I was off balance. I was doing things that were wrong, and now that I've had this judgment, I feel like, okay, that chapter has reached a conclusion. I can go on to my new chapter of life, and I can go on to it in a clean way, right? Whereas now we're not looking. Nobody wants to be judged, right? But the fact of the matter is that there are things that, if we've done things that need to be corrected, it requires sometimes some severe judgment, severe in the sense of being ready to actually face the facts. And that's why in the process of tshuva is also called vidui. A part of the tshuva, vidui. A part of the tshuva is the actual verbal confession. I confess that I did such and such. Soloveitchik, he explains why is it necessary to actually to state my confession Why isn't it enough to just say, I feel sorry that, without verbalizing what I actually did? Why do I have to actually make a confessional statement? I did this and this. So he said, because unless you actually put it into words, you might be aware that you did something that's not right, but it's not until you put it into a logical sentence, which is the definition of a sentence, right? That it's got to be a logical, right? Isn't it? Right? It's a logical arrangement of words that makes sense, right? And until I put it into a sentence, she's a writer, so okay? A reporter in the world of journalism, where the truth is the most paramount.
All the truth is fit to print.
Yeah. Okay. But she doesn't write those kinds of things. She writes other things, good things for Hashem.
Stay away from politics.
Stay away from the politics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank God. Anyway, so but until I make a logical a statement saying I did this and this and I'm taking responsibility for it, I will not face that reality without making that logical, clear statement. Yes, I did this, right? And that's what I mean by severe, because sometimes it's painful to admit that I did something, not that I hurt someone. It can be very painful, right? But on the other hand, if I don't, I'm going to carry that around with me for who knows how long, right? And therefore, the Hashiva Shuftenu Kavavishona. So we want that capability of judgment, but we need to have judges who are real righteous people. And that's a serious problem, because it's very hard to find judges who have the guts to be fearless and who are righteous, who don't have any who are beyond the temptations of bribery, etc., etc. When I was teaching in the school over here, so one day we were talking with the social worker, and we were talking about some abuse that was going on in a certain community, and the social worker said that she actually called up the rabbi in the community, and she said, "Are you aware of what's going on?" And he said, "Yes." And she said, "So what are you doing about it? Are you doing anything about it?" He says he would love to do something about it, but I want to know, are you capable of ensuring the safety of my wife and children? Apparently, the rabbi had tried at some point to intervene in a certain situation, and he got a phone call from somebody saying, I just saw your kids getting onto the school bus, and your son is dressed like this, and your daughter is dressed like that, and we see your wife is now shopping at the store. Da, 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 da. And we are sure that you love them and that you want them to come home in good health, don't you? And then they hang up. To be a judge, you've got to be fearless. You've got to be fearless for that kind of thing, and we're living in this world of lies, and there are people who do those kinds of things, and then they and so this rabbi said to the social worker, so are you going to guarantee, are you able to take care of the safety of my family? And she had nothing to say, so it's a very serious issue to have real judges, to have real judges who are righteous, in other words, and who have the guts to deliver a judgment, and a real judgment, like I said before, is not something that's going to destroy you, but rather it will restore your faith in yourself to live a good life. Okay? So Rav Shlomo continues and he says, "V'chein bevakasha mimcha." So therefore, again, I'm begging you, b'shum ofen, Hashem yishmo, al titzak al yeladim shelcha b'yamim ha'kedoshim ha'eleh. Be very careful not to scream at your children during these holy days, right? Da lecha, know kol ma shata oseh, everything that you do, yotzer heid b'shamayim. It creates an echo in heaven. Yesh midah keneged midah. There is such a thing as measure for measure. If you're screaming at your children, Hashem yishmo, may Hashem protect us. Ma koreh b'shamayim, what happens in heaven? Halo kol ha'olam heim ha'iladim shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Aren't all the people in the world Hashem's children, right? So do you want to arouse that God should start shouting at us? God forbid. אז אני מברך אתכם, so blessing you, שתכסו את פני הילדים שלכם בנשיקות, cover your children's faces and kisses, ושממש תזכו להבין את הסימנים שלהם, and that you should merit to be able to read their sign language. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. I learned from Sarah Yudit Schneider, not from her personally, but heard from her that she said that you notice things that are bad that you think are bad in other people because you yourself have them in yourself, otherwise you wouldn't notice them.
In psychology, they call that projection.
Yeah.
Also,
so that, as you said, Hashem arranges it so that we see these situations that remind us of things.
That's where this is where she got it from the same place that Rav Shlomo got it. So what do you want to add?
Well, when my first question, which I didn't ask, when it said, don't judge any person, and then later he said, don't judge any other person.
No, also yourself. You have to be careful about judging yourself too.
That's my question.
But in other words,
because it's very easy. I think that judging of other people starts with how I relate to myself. If I can relate to myself with compassion and understanding, then I can relate to other people also with compassion.
Possibly. Yeah. Possibly.
So, in the title of the chapter, it doesn't say others. It says judging anyone.
Yeah.
And then later he says judging others.
Yeah.
But I think
because that's the more common thing that we're doing. Yeah. But that's the more common thing. Okay. But he goes on to talk about that on the next page. Okay, so thank you for coming. I was getting nervous about nobody was showing up on time today. Good.
One technical question. You said that the 1872 is 4 times 18. And what does that have to do with the Shem Hashem, which is 26?
The four letters of the divine name is the letters through which chiyut, through which life energy comes down to us.
Okay.
So chai plus chai plus chai plus chai. It's not the numerical value of the divine name that we're talking about, but we're talking about the life energy coming through the divine name.
So why 4 times?
Just 4 letters, Yud Kei Vav Kei. But then there's also one of the divine names adds up to 72 as well. One of the ways of writing the divine name is known as Shem Ayin Bet.
I see.
The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, when he went into the Holy of Holies and he verbalized the actual correct pronunciation of the divine name, we say Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. We don't pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei. So when he pronounced, so that name is known as Shem Bet. Shem Ayin Bet, the name of 72 letters.
Shem Ayin Bet, and it was more than just Yud Kei Vav Kei letters.
I don't know much more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I want to say something personally too.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so